Well,
Yeah,
you mentioned to me the other day about a rule of thumb. I don't know if it was even that, suggesting that maybe organisations think about a smaller number of strategic projects and treat that as their strategic portfolio, and maybe allow and enable or encourage functional heads, department managers to maybe have their own local change projects that they don't get confused as being strategic. So
yeah,
so maybe they are pet projects, but they're supporting that function's business
indeed.
objectives rather than strategic ones. I
Absolutely.
like that suggestion to focus on the key things.
I think it's really important. I think what comes out of what I've said so far is, look, every organisation has a portfolio. Whether they treat it as such is another issue. But it is we have a portfolio. The issue then is, do we treat it as a single portfolio or as a series of portfolios with sub portfolios? Because there has to be a framework.
Yeah, yeah,
Otherwise, this is we don't want projects just sitting out there. One of the common grounds of failure in these really big projects that end up failing is that there was no accountability going upwards. There was no one sitting there challenging the people, saying, "Look, come on, we're going to shut you down unless you can make the case for investment." There was none of that challenge. So I think, yes, there is one portfolio. So you could then say, okay, so then we should manage it as one, because that's more cost effective. We get economies of scale. Well, you do, but you lose the economies of specialization. And I should
indeed.
say, I mean, I was on a webinar once when they said, you're going to, so you have these, everything should be in the portfolio. So we treat them all projects are treated in a consistent manner with a level playing field. Sounds good until you think about it, of course, which I'll explain. And so I said, well, that's great, but what do you do if you've got 10,000 projects?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
they said, Steve has said, so what do you do? And they said, well, you have a big PMO.
yeah.
No,
Well,
no,
you might have 10,000 projects. You don't have to try and manage it under one hat roof, do you?
no, absolutely. It's ridiculous. You wouldn't say, the finance department is going to run the finances for the whole organization. We're going to be directly, no, you delegate budgets and authority down the organization, and then there is accountability back up.
Yeah,
But you in business as usual, there is the organisation chart, and we cascade the authority and the budget downwards. You have the responsibility of achieving your objectives, and you have the funding to do so. But that doesn't mean you can just spend the money and your boss can't come in and take some of that money away. That's the real world.
indeed, indeed.
And so it should be in the portfolio. And so most of the research, if you look at McKinsey's, for example, they talk about having a corporate portfolio of somewhere between 20 and 40 projects. The really big stuff, the stuff that crosses organizational functions, the stuff that really matters to your strategy. Antonio Nieto Rodriguez, the guy from the Strategy Institute, talks about ex-PMI, a global chair of PMI, talks about having a focused portfolio. That's a key word, focused. I think 20
Yeah,
to
yeah,
30 projects or programs. So let the IT guys manage the IT portfolio, but the really big stuff, that should be managed at the highest level in this corporate portfolio and enterprise portfolio. But doesn't mean when we cascade downwards, we just let go. No, there needs to be that reporting from your projects to your programs, to your portfolio, to your enterprise portfolio. Light touch, management by exception, delegated authority, all the good things that we have in our organization for managing. Because, if someone, I don't know, British Telecom, someone at the front line starts doing something really dodgy, overcharging customers or whatever, the board of British Telecom can't then say, "Oh, well, that's not our fault. That that was his delegated authority." No, your job is to have a corporate governance that
yeah,
captures any malfeasance or and prevents any bad activity. That you have a corporate culture that supports your governance. Obviously, this is about process, governance, and culture, and they're all required. People often say to me, "Steve, but our culture doesn't support it." Well, I say, well, check. What do you mean by culture? And they say it's the way we do things around here. I said, well, then change the way you do things.
yeah, yeah. I hear
Process.
this phrase, culture eats strategy, and all that sort of stuff.
Well,
So
yeah,
in my mind, you need to drive your culture and support culture development to help your strategy work. So suggesting
absolutely.
culture eats strategy doesn't compute fully
No,
with me.
there are three pillars. I think when I was in the prison service at one point, they talked about the three pillars of our strategy. You got it, or it's like the stool. If you take one of the pillars away, the thing's going to fall over. So it's about
Indeed.
process, it's about governance, and it's about strategy. sorry, process, strategy, and culture. You've got to have all three, and governance kind of underpins all of that.
Well, other colleagues in our session will talk about the journey from business purpose to strategic objectives. Many of those will get delegated, and a portfolio will be asked to deliver the investment side of that, and we'll get some strategic objectives that might go into our product management teams, or our investments perhaps, but maybe dealt with differently, and into our business as usual teams, because we need the business to perform, to achieve strategic objectives. So we've got to basically pull all that up together, I guess. But without an investment component, providing that specialism, working out the dependency, balancing resource across those things, we're going to struggle, aren't we?
Well, I think so. I mean, to make my case, though, I've referred to various arguments already, but I think let's do the analogy to probably the kind of topic in performance management in organisations more generally, OKRs. John Doerr, who uses OKRs? Netflix, Google, Samsung, some pretty impressive organisations. If you have I got it on my bookshelf? No, I've moved it.
CPS. I eat mine dog food.
Yeah, OKRs. I mean, the originated at Intel with Andy Grove. John Doerr's book, Measure What Matters, and the subtitle is the amazing, the simple technique that delivers 10 times growth. I'm not sure about the 10 times growth bit. I mean, Stuart Easton, who's talking in the comments, will talk about how to double your return on investment. And I say to Stuart, you're aiming low, mate. You're aiming low. We should be at least double. Because if OKRs, and what's OKR? OKR says you start off with your objectives. Yes, but no, you start off with your prioritized objectives. You be clear. Yeah. What are our objectives now? What are the most important objectives? You then identify your key results, OKR, your key result, or measurable improvements or benefits. And then you commission projects and programs and initiatives to deliver the key results or your benefits to achieve your objectives. So it really does come down to that, whether it's in the organization more generally, OKRs, whether it's in the portfolio, with managing portfolios, I'm talking about objectives, benefits, initiatives. And the initiatives are projects, programs, and other related work. We do stuff, that's all stuff. We do stuff to deliver benefits, to show that we've achieved our objectives. And if someone says, for example, but we've got all these other benefits, I say, I don't care, right? I care about achieving our portfolio objectives. Stop giving me this list of 120 benefits. No, here are our 3 portfolio objectives, our priority objectives. Here are the benefits that will, the improvements that show we've achieved those objectives. That's why you exist. And actually, the New Zealand government published a brilliant paper at one point where they said benefits that aren't related to strategic objectives are a waste of public money. Hallelujah.